All right, welcome everyone. Today's video is going to be test casting the iFishband Clamber. I did an unboxing video, put that link up above. I'm going to be also comparing it to the Curado BFS. On some websites I've seen, it seems like that the Clamber is supposed to be competing with the Curado BFS. So I'm going to put it head to head with the Curado BFS with stock bearings on each. And also I'm going to put micro bearings in both to see which one's going to perform best. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. Also comment down below what other BFS footage you want to see out of these two reels. All right, so for testing purposes, I'm going to be using the same exact line on both reels. Like I'm going to actually take this same line off and put it onto the Curado, so it's the same exact line. It's not the same amount of line. It's the same exact line, so that eliminate that variable. And I'm going to be using a lot of the same lures too. This is a pretty standard BFS lure that I use. This is 4 grams. This is the Creep Aim 46S. I used it a lot. I'll put that the review video to it up in the link up in the card above. And then the rod I'm using, this is a custom BFS rod that I've been working on. There's going to be 2 different colors. This is a prototype right here, very close to the final product, but it's a very light rod. I'd rate it as an ultralight. So it's going to be really good going out to a lot of these native brook trout that are around here. Get to casting, I'm going to set the brakes to 5. I know that the reel test, he said that it maxes out like around like 7 or so. So I'm just going to turn up to 5, see how it is. I cast pretty decent. I could definitely, oh, got one right away. Look at it. Literally right when I landed. Brook trout. I may as well just keep my net out this whole time. Look at that first cast. But there it is, Clamber. The Clamber is a better BFS reel for sure. For sure, a better BFS reel because I caught one on the first cast. No, I was just playing around with that, but let's get this unhooked first. Get that out of the way of the fish. Put that down. Yeah, there we go. All right, if you want to, let me get through real quick. Just a quick little camera shot of the fish and I'll release it. That's not a super colorful one. It's getting there, but they get a lot more colorful than that. Real nice looking brook trout. Bye-bye. I'm gonna keep this out. But it did feel a little bit overbraked with 4 grams at 5, so I'm gonna turn it down to like, I don't know, 3.5, see what happens. And I should mention that this had a lot of grease in the bearings, and so I cleaned all the grease out. I know that Rar over at Rar Fishing, he's fishing it just with the grease, however the reel comes, which is a really good way. I cleaned the bearings out in here, and I put Hedgehog alchemy oil. Ooh. My line's kind of messed up for some reason. But it's really low viscosity BFS oil. I did the same thing to the Curado as well. So they both have recently cleaned stock bearings. That does cast pretty good. They both have recent, ooh, they got one right there. That's a little bit bigger one. I don't know how far those logs go out. Well, that's a big one. A little more color to it too. Ooh, that is a nice one. Oh, wow. Come on, Papa. Ah, there we go. Ooh, look at that. That's a nice trout. That good? That one I had to tighten the drag for a little bit because I didn't want it to bring me into weeds, but if I know that there's a fish I control, that's when I'll play the drag a little bit. Oh, I thought it was another one. We got a trigger. Oh, there we go. I mean, the rod does a really good job cushioning, even for these small ones too, without getting maxed out. Oh, that's a nice looking one. There you go. I'll let some line out. There you go. The single barbless hooks that I swap on here make unhooking so much easier. It's a real nice looking fish. All right, slip and slide. Whee! There it goes. And unhooking from these silicone nets too is so nice. That's probably the best thing. I know you're watching this video probably because, you know, for the reel upgrades. Definitely 2 upgrades I always recommend. Single hooks on your middle baits and a silicone net. Makes landing fish so much safer for the fish and easier also for you too. Yeah, it's definitely, I know that Paul over at Fishing Discoveries, he tested this reel out a while ago. He had a lot of good things to say about it for shallow streams. That's actually, I'm starting to like this now. At first I was a little worried at first about the reel, to be honest. But now that I turned it down to about 2, that's nice. Like for, ooh. Got my timing off a little bit there, but that's definitely nice. I don't know about it like full distance or with light weights or anything, but even just with the stock, granted 4 grams is, I'd say now it's a little bit high, like a little bit heavier than like the industry standard for BFS reels, like as far as like its low range capabilities. But that feels nice even without having a whole bunch of different weight or time with it or distances. How I like BFS reels in streams, it's a little bit different than I like them in lakes. For lakes, I like to have a little bit more control, just because there's a lot of wind and I'm casting usually further distance. But in these streams like this, I like to have my reels fast, but also, and then I just use my thumb for a brake for like major braking if there's wind or like a good crosswind that happens sometimes. I'm gonna turn those brakes on a little bit more, see what happens. Just one more click. Yeah, the retrieve doesn't feel, I mean, it's not like super smooth, but also when I got the Curado is a little rough at first, to be honest. If you see my on the water review, I was a little rough at first. Oh, there we go, had another one hit. There we go. Oh, now that drag's actually peeling. What we got off? There we go, we got it. A little bit nicer one. Ooh, that's super bright. Wow, ooh, landed right in the net. I'll go up for this one. Let me get my lure out of there. The way they've been hitting, I can't be leaving that lure in the water. That thing is nice looking. I don't know if the camera's gonna be able to pick that one up. Here we go. You got it? It's a really nice looking fish. So they get those colors like that because they're spawning. They're getting ready to spawn. Splake do the same thing. The splake are actually hybrids of brook trout and lake trout. Let that one go. Honestly, kind of crazy right now. I'm going to switch to a different lure. Normally I wouldn't do that if I'm catching fish, but I just want to see. I want to see how this lure casts with different. Yeah, I want to see how this reel casts with different lures. I said the lure I'm going to be casting. This is the Jackson Cyral. This is the sinking version. It's kind of a hard lure to cast, a little bit, but it's going to be a really good test. And actually, I want to catch some brook trout on top water with this, so I'm going to see how this. I want to see how this is going to work out. It's actually made a pretty good test, especially with this wind. Let me get up a little bit more. Oh, yikes. That thing hooked. Oh, there we go. Ooh. I might have to wait till I put micro bearings in this for this. Let me see. I got the brakes down to 1 right now. 1 out of 10, and there's micro adjustments in between. Ooh, this is gonna be dangerous. Oh, I did it pretty decent. Oh, got one coming up. So this reel actually casts this lure pretty dang good. Come on. Yeah, Ooh, that was a nice one. Ooh. Ah. It takes a little bit of thumb to be able to cast this lure with it, especially because I'm not whipping it out there. But even with stock bearings, this thing casts pretty good. I mean, my brakes are on 1.5 right now. And the rod handles it well too. Ooh. I think they're gonna be up a little. I'll try to get up by the brush a little bit more. There we go. All right, now I'm going to take a longer cast up that way. Turn my brakes up a little bit for this. Oh, Captain Morgan pose. Yikes. The brakes make a big, ooh, yikes. The brakes seem to make a big difference right now. Like on the low end like that. A lot of it's just getting used to this braking system too. Oh yeah, I got backlash there. Oh, I'm getting hit though. Had one. Oh, he's still chasing. Oh, I gotta get this backlash out though. Ah, come on, come on, come on. Backlashes definitely go deeper with this. All right, now I'm gonna switch over some jigs to see how it casts some plastics. Right here, this is the Eurotackle Micro Finesse. This is the Fat Assassin. I got 2 different colors in there just because I have one for panfish and one for trout. So I just kind of made a little mix bag for myself, so I don't have to carry as many packages with me. I'm just gonna rig this up on this is a small VMC Mooneye Jig. It's a 1/32 ounce jig. So especially with a little bit of wind and this kind of bulky trailer, this will help see how well it controls these light weights in the wind. Didn't get it completely straight on there, but that's what I look like rigged right there. I'm using a little bit louder colors too, just because they're a little bit more aggressive this time of year because they're in pre-spawn mode right now. So they're trying to establish their dominance in those prime feeding and spawning spots right now. So I'm definitely gonna take advantage of that with some loud colors. All right, I'm still on number 2 on the brake setting. Well, that cast delta pretty good. Ooh, wow, right away. Again. Yeah, right in the upper lip there. There you go. I'm gonna pinch this barb down a little bit more. There we go. That fish wasn't hard to unhook, but I do like to just pinch the barbs down, just to be safe. So with the jig, how I'm finding out how it's casting is, it does hang in the air a little bit, and I feel like if I turn the brakes down more, which of course I will, I gotta stop using my right hand too. I like to keep my right thumb dry so I have more control when I'm casting. It's kind of sticky, but it definitely hangs a little bit in there. There's one that just jumped back there too. Oh, that slow fall of that bait's really good too. I don't want to bring them too close to me. I'm going to do a little bit further long cast this way just to see how this does in a longer cast setting. I'll turn the brakes up just to be safe on it. I gotta leave some fish for the Curado too. Yeah, it starts to get a little wild. Okay, hurry up, there we go. Wasn't that deep of a backlash. I'll turn it up again, another notch. So that felt really good controlled with the with casting, but then it almost seems like it's choked off a little bit because those break. Oh, now I have to turn it up again. So it does seem like when you get to those little bit lower weights, or those weights that catch, or those lures that catch a little bit more wind, it definitely likes to be very, very, very fine-tuned. Because those brakes are constantly on. Like now, the amount of magnetic force will change based on the RPMs of the spool, but the spool, like when you set the brakes, it's a constant braking motion. However you have those brakes set, versus like the FTB braking system that the Curado has, it moves and it adapts with the speed of your spool. Yeah, I got a little bit of a backlash right there. Yeah, at least for me in these shallow fishing settings, like these short range settings, it's not ideal. Now this is still fairly light and fairly if I use my thumb a little bit, it works out pretty good. So I'm going to switch over to the Curado stock, and I'm going to see how that is. All right, so now I switch over to the Curado. I've used it quite a bit. I've only really used it in the stock form. Let me turn those brakes down. I've only used it in the stock form. I gotta turn that drag down, dang. I was reeling in freaking bass with this. I've really liked it. I do notice the thumb bar does sit a little bit higher than the clamber, just fishing it like literally side by side like that. But I do like the casting of the Curado better. I'm just used to how, like, at the end of the cast, it kind of drops off braking a little bit more. So it gives you a little bit more brake in the beginning. But that other braking system that the clamber has is actually, it's pretty good, especially if you're first starting out for BFS, because it's constant braking. And it does, if you set, like I said earlier, if you set that brake exactly for that lure, the rod, line, wind, barometric pressure, whatever, it casts really good. I mean, I definitely made, ooh, that's a nice brook trout, dang. The drag clicker is a little bit smoother on the Curado as well. I mean, not that the fish band wasn't bad, it's just that is a huge brook trout. Dang, come on, baby. Oh, that's nice. That's a big brook trout. Let me get down here. Oh, if I can move my foot, there we go. Ah. That doesn't even have colors on it. That thing's thick. Look at that thing. Let me move the lure out of here. Yeah, I'm a lot more confident, maybe because I'm more used to this braking system too, but I am more confident. It does cast a little bit better for me, the FTB braking system versus the, I'll just call it the Magtrax style brake system like the that Clamber has, because I know some Abu Garcia reels have the same thing. I mean, just from these tests so far, I wouldn't say that the Clamber is a Curado killer by any means. I mean, like I said, the Clamber, I think when it's all set up perfectly for like that specific area, it does cast really, really nice. But if you've ever fished streams, especially backwoods streams like this, you get wind that comes out of nowhere. Especially, I'm down in kind of a valley right now, so sometimes it'll come from this way. Pretty much every way it'll swirl, especially if you have a lot of bends in the river. The wind will carry through on that stream. So you have a lot of unexpected wind sometimes. I mean, but this is only 4 grams though. Oop, how many lures am I forget it was? But I feel a lot more confident there we go. Placing this lure wherever I want. But I'm not going to waste too much time with this. I'm going to switch to that little frog. All right, I got that little frog on, that little Jackal Cyral, itty bitty frog. I had some topwater strikes. They're striking at it. I wasn't able to really hook up with them earlier. I'm going to test this out. There's a little bit more wind now than there was. I'm going to cast in the open water first to see how it... Oh, yeah, I got to get calibrated on that. Turn the brakes down. And I can tell when it's the brakes or not the brakes just from when I cast. I have a video, I'll put that link up above, but I have a video that goes over kind of troubleshooting some BFS casting. And a lot of times if your lure carries across your body more, so I cast right-handed, so if it carries to the left, oh, there's a fish waking right there. But if it carries over to like your left side, a lot of times your brakes are too high on your reel. Oh, wow, that was nice. Let me just turn it up a smidge. That cast, I never tried lightweight like this with the Curado. I tried it for bass fishing, like my on the water video that I did. Oh, yikes. I gotta go jinx myself, there we go. I tried the on the water, like on out of the water, I did mainly bass fishing. I haven't really tried super light lures like this, but I don't know if it's because I cleaned the bearings. Oh, there we go, that was a vicious strike. I don't know if it's because I cleaned the bearings out or if it's because, I don't know, I just never really tried it, or it's the rod. The rod loads good with the lure. Woo, doggy, that was the first like actual waking topwater strike I got with this thing. Sweet. They do cast further and you just kind of work them aggressive. Ooh, that was huge. Whew. Anyway, you just work them. Oh, no, 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 no. I thought it was gonna be like a River Monsters type thing. I'm gonna burn that one back real quick. Okay. Oh my, that was a big brook trout. That was big. There we go. Come back, baby. I'm gonna go subsurface for this one. I gotta get that one. That's huge. I don't know if it, nah, it doesn't feel like the same one. That other one was bright. Oh, that's definitely not the same one. Ah, come on, man. That's it. There we go. Quick unhook. That's a little guy. And another thing that I like about the Curado over the Clamber, which this is just more of a preference thing, is that this Curado is an 8.2 to 1 gear ratio. Oh, there we go. That's a nice one. It's an 8.2 to 1 gear ratio versus the Clamber is a 6.6. So if you're gonna be like slow rolling, like small spinner baits, well, that's a nice brook trout too. If you're gonna be slow rolling like small spinner baits or chatter baits like those Mookeyes, it's definitely nicer to have the slower gear ratio for some people, especially like tiny little spinner baits or crankbaits. I'm not huge into using tiny crankbaits. Most I'll use is like I'll use like those Rapala size crankbaits, but those are pretty nice to have the slower gear ratio. But for me, there's not a lot of, I don't need that torque of a low gear ratio that some people use for like bass fishing sometimes, like the argument, because there's not nearly enough force with these little BFS cranks or whatever to warrant having the more torque. So I'd rather more speed, especially if you're fishing around areas like this that you have a lot of wood. If you got to get that fish back, in a hurry, it's nice having that gear ratio. But I'm going to switch over to that jig. All right, so this is that same jig, that 1/32 ounce VMC jig head with the Fat Assassin on there. So this is really going to test it. Now that the wind did pick up a little tiny bit more, but this is really going to test the braking system. Oh, I'm going to I'll turn my brakes up a little bit. Just a smidgen. A lot of the brake settings, I actually been forgetting to say this on the Curado. Most of the brake settings have been around 2 or a little bit under 2 I've been using, with barely any side-to-side play. Yeah, now that was at like 1.75. Now I'm at about 1.6. Yeah, I'd take the Curado over the. Oh, I just saw a strike there too. There we go, baby. I didn't really set the hook on him. Yeah, I'll take the Curado. Oh, that was a little high. I had to turn my brakes down slightly. Yeah, come on. I don't want to sit there and play the fish too long. Oh, I keep wetting my right hand. See, I pinch that barb down, comes out. Oh, and now he's, come on, let go. He's just biting the lure right now. It's not even, one of those ribs were stuck. All right, I'm gonna let that fish go. Yeah, there you go. But definitely, for consistency's sake, without really having to mess with the brakes at all, I can. Oh, right when I said that, I actually got like a kind of like an anti-backlash. So I went to go press the spool with my thumb. My line actually got stuck to the. My thumb actually got stuck to the line and stopped it abruptly. But even with that backlash, so I had a really bad backlash with the clamber. And the backlash is definitely a lot, I don't know how to say it, but it comes out a lot easier. I don't think that's really the braking system in order to have enough backlashes to really have enough data. But for me, picking out the backlash, I've never had that issue like I had with the clamber with any other BFS reel, whether it's a Roro spool or like the stock Alpha's Air TW spool or even this Curado spool. I never had that issue. I had to go all the way down to the bottom of the spool, and then it was kind of still wrapped up weird. Yeah, it's casting good. And something worth mentioning too. So I also have the SLX BFS. I got that in the faster gear ratio. Well, a little bit of a backlash there. Got a little too excited. But I also have that in the XG, like the 8.2 gear ratio. But that also comes in the 6.3, I think. So it does come in a slower gear ratio. So if you like this platform and casting, well, that's a nice brook trout. But if you like this platform, like the Curado platform and braking systems and such, the SLX BFS and I think the Scorpion BFS, they're all basically the same reel. I mean, you're really splitting hairs if you have any differences, but let me wet that hand. But those two have a slower gear ratio option as well. So don't just be stuck on, oh, I'm gonna settle for the clamber, which I'm not saying you'll be settling if you do choose the clamber, but don't get it if you really want the Curado BFS, but you also want slower gear ratio. That's an option, is to one, get the SLX or the Scorpion, or you could buy one of those gear sets from I know Platt's a pretty good place to get gear sets. And maybe the tackle trap too, like you might have to contact them. There won't be something that they're keeping stock, but they might be able to get something like that too. So that's just some options for you. So just so like the gear ratio isn't the biggest thing. But if you're looking for out of the box, big difference between the clamber and the Curado is going to be the gear ratio. I also don't know how warranty is going to be on the clamber either, to be honest. Oh, that gets pretty deep right there. I didn't notice that. Ooh. It is really nice having a high vis line. Ooh, there we go. Right there, it kind of hit coming toward me. Oh, come on. Come on. It's stuck around that branch. There you go. So it kind of hit coming toward me, and I was still able to see my line jump. There you go. Decent little brook trout. All right, so at least for me, I think the Curado is still the way to go. This is stock bearings though, so the next video is going to have me doing it with micro bearings. My intent was to have it all together out here, but it's so brushy. I did bring a towel to swap the parts on, but with the Curado, I have to take it apart. And I really don't feel like losing parts out here. I was hoping that I can have some flatter ground to swap them. So I'll put that in the next, not the next upload, but the next video that I shoot with the Clamber will be having the Curado and also the Clamber reels, both with micro bearings in there, to see if that makes a huge difference for either reel. And maybe that puts the Clamber, for me, above the Curado. But right now, as it stands, I'd say the Curado, it just feels a little bit more refined, and also it casts, for me, it casts a little bit better. But people also have different opinions and casting styles. So make sure you check out Rara's fishing video. I know he's going to be doing a comparison video. I'd imagine he'd be doing a comparison video. I know he's going to be testing out the Clamber. So see what he says about it. And then I'm also going to be getting, I have micro bearings from him already. So my next upload will be that. So stay tuned for that. Also comment down below what lures you want to see with that micro bearing face off.